Let us pray. Holy and loving God, God of great surprises, God who takes our worst fears and redeems them, God who always shows us a ray of light and hope when things seem dark, be with us in this time. May the words of my mouth and the meditations in all of our hearts be acceptable to you, our rock and our Redeemer. Amen. I have a body. This is not news to you, I'm sure. That you too likewise have a body is not news. You have a stomach that rumbles, a heart that beats, lungs that inhale and exhale. Inhale and exhale with me. You have glands that sweat, feet that ache, backs that hunch, faces that smile and grimace and frown and wrinkle. I have a scar on my face by the corner of my eye and stretch marks from bearing 2 children. My hair has strands of gray. Try as we might to ignore them, we all have a body. And how's your body these days? A blessing or a curse? Because they can be both, can't they? Yes? A blessing, how we experience the goodness of the created world, affection and love, delicious things to eat, flowers to smell, warm blankets to rest in, the feel of a spring breeze on your face. I hope that we remember these blessings that come with having a body and don't take them for granted. We get so used to it, we don't even notice the sensation of cool water down your throat when you are parched, breathing in, breathing out. These bodies of ours are vehicles to experience God. Yes? And our bodies are good. Yes? We in our branch of mainline progressive Protestantism are very clear that our bodies are good. God made them and made the world for us to enjoy. There is no fear of the body here at this church, no belief that our bodies inherently lead to sin. No, our bodies are good. They are the very means by which we experience God. And yet our bodies are also a curse, aren't they? They sag and strain, they ache, and they no longer do what we want them to do. Knees and hips get replaced, but we cannot replace the mortal shell we all carry. Why is she talking about bodies? You might wonder. This is a spiritual place. Shouldn't we be talking about spiritual things and not physical things? But no. You see, when God became flesh in Jesus Christ, it was made clear to us that the physical matters. You and I, as people in the 21st century, have a tendency to think in terms of a body and soul dichotomy, that there is a split between the physical and the spiritual. In Christian tradition and history, this change in thinking happened centuries ago when we severed the soul from the body. The physical world, the spiritual world. A split between the two. And we can blame Plato and Aristotle, among others, for this. But for ancient Jewish people, for Jesus and his early community, there was no separation of body and soul. This split between physical and spiritual was just not there. Redemption was about wholeness. Wholeness and holiness. That was the goal. The Hebrew word for soul, nephesh, literally means a soul in a body, a living being whose flesh and spirit are integrated utterly. A soul as separate from the body just did not make sense. As our Christian faith moved away from its Jewish roots and was influenced by Hellenistic culture, the Enlightenment, and other philosophical schools of thought, this idea of body and soul, physical and spiritual, as separate and distinct, has come to dominate our thinking. Do you agree? Thank you. Make sure I'm on the right track here. So Rabbi Bradley Artson, in his article, "The Body is the Glory of the Soul Embodied," challenges us to think about embodied spirituality. He describes it as a spirituality that is unafraid of the fact that we are human beings, that we occupy the physical world, and that this expansive physical creation is the place in which good and evil, holiness and profanity work out their ongoing struggles. Referencing the Talmud, he quotes Rabbi Elzer, who said, "A person should always see himself as if holiness resided within his intestines." Taking this body and soul, physical and spiritual false dichotomy and reintegrating them so that holiness might reside even in our intestines. If holiness in your intestines feels like a tad too much, consider for a moment holiness in your hands. Look at your hands. Holiness in our hands, in our faces, in our arms. Whether we like it or not, our bodies are how we experience the world, and we cannot escape them. They bless us and frustrate us and limit us, and they are us. Rabbi Artson also writes, "Because bodies are sacred and because the world is as physical and solid as it is, physical presence is where God is to be found." Our bodies matter. They matter to how we experience the world, and that includes how we experience God. Our bodies are the inescapable vehicle by which we experience God and God's creation, and bodies matter. They matter to God. Ukrainian bodies, lying in the streets of Bucha, hands tied behind their backs, matter to God. The body of Patrick Lyoya, shot in the back of the head on the ground in Grand Rapids, matters to God. Sick bodies in the intensive care units in hospitals all over the country ransacked by COVID-19 or cancer matter to God. Hungry bodies, malnourished bodies, bodies that sleep in the street because they have nowhere else to go matter to God. Your body matters to God. When God became flesh in Jesus Christ, our flesh was made holy. When Mary Magdalene goes to the tomb on that day, when it is still dark, she does so because Jesus' body matters to her. He is her teacher, her rabbi, her embodied hope, a ray of light in a world gone dark, and she is looking for him. In other versions of the Easter story, we hear that there are other women who go with Mary very early that morning, and they go to prepare the body for burial. You see, they couldn't do that on Friday because when the sun set, it began their holy tradition of Sabbath, and they had to wait until Sabbath was over to return to the tomb and care for the body of their rabbi, to lovingly wash the crucified body, to wipe away the sweat and the blood, to anoint it with oil, to honor it. But when Mary gets there, she is distressed because the body is gone. He is gone, and she calls out, "They have taken my Lord, and I don't know where they have laid him." Fear of grave robbers or myriad ways that a body could be defiled, especially a body executed by the Romans. What have they done with his body? This is the greatest mystery of our faith, isn't it? This great surprise. What happened to his body? because he is there. He is alive. She sees him. The disciples see him. They interact with him. They eat with him. But what happened to his body? The great mystery of our faith. It strikes me as funny that we're talking about this, because if you go to a progressive church like ours on Easter, you're likely to hear people talk about anything but Jesus' body. Jesus' resurrected body makes some of us a little uncomfortable. We find it hard to believe, unscientific. We want scientific, rational, 21st century answers to this mystery. And a lot of Easters, I have spiritualized the body away, reduced it to metaphor, or focused on how we are to live like Easter people, rather than on struggling with whether or not we believe it. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But this Easter, after 2 years of focusing on how a sickness affects the body, after 50 days of seeing body after body on a screen from Ukraine, after personally knowing and caring for bodies sick with cancer or aging or racked with pain, I know that our bodies matter to God, and that story of Jesus tells us as much as Jesus cares for blind bodies and sick bodies and hemorrhaging bodies and hungry bodies, as he holds the feet of his disciples and washes them, as at the end his own body is given and yet is risen from the dead. Hearing the story of Jesus, how could we think that bodies don't matter? Chuck Colson, a U.S. attorney and political advisor to Nixon, who was also the first man to serve time due to Watergate, he had a late-in-life conversion and once said, "I know the resurrection is a fact, and Watergate proved it to me." How? Because 12 men testified they had seen Jesus raised from the dead, and they proclaimed that truth for 40 years, never once denying it. Everyone was beaten, tortured, stoned, and put in prison. They would not have endured it if it weren't true. Watergate embroiled 12 of the most powerful men in the world, and they couldn't keep alive for 3 weeks. You're telling me 12 apostles could keep alive for 40 years? Impossible. Yes, they were beaten and tortured. Some of them even crucified themselves, gave their bodies to their faith because they knew that God would redeem them. Bodies matter so much that the grand story of God doesn't end with the death of them, but the resurrection of them. Since our bodies matter, death cannot be the end. God resides here, in your hands, in your breath, in the holiness of your intestines. God sees through your eyes and speaks with your voice. God is lying in the streets of Ukraine and in the ICU at Albany Med. On Good Friday, he was crucified and suffered and died in the form of Jesus Christ. But today, early this morning, she went to the tomb, and the body, it was not really gone. It was death that was gone. The body has not been conquered. Death has been conquered. When Jesus Christ was raised from the dead, it was not only to proclaim that evil and oppression and power lose and God wins, but also to proclaim that this physical world itself can be redeemed, can be holy, and can be saved, which means you too, which means us, which means holiness in wholeness. Christ is risen. Amen.